Good evening, Councillor Phillip. We're ready to start the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jane. We are quorate, so I'll carry on with the litany. Good evening, Nosratha, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the General Licensing Committee, which of course we're all attending remotely. My name's Philip Evans. I'm chairing the meeting this evening. In addition to committee members, we also have non-committee members, cabinet members and officers joining us to assist in our discussions. Can I check that everybody can hear me? It just shows, that's fine, thank you. Can I remind members that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should live streaming fail during the meeting, we will continue and a recording will be available through the Council's website following the end of our meeting. Can I remind members that translation facilities are available and to choose your language of choice. If you wish to speak, please use the raise the blue hand button so that I can see you. You can use the chat facility, but please note I may not be able to monitor this during the meeting. All mics have been muted. If you have indicated your intention to speak with the blue hand, I will invite you to turn your mic on. If you do leave your device for any reason, can you ensure, please, that you are muted and you turn the video off? All right, thank you for that. So we'll now proceed with item 1, apologies, and I think with apologies from Councillor Dave Roberts and from Councillor Andrew Wood. I think everybody else is here. Item 2, declarations of interest under the Code of Conduct. Any? No. There's no urgent items. Item 4, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 29th of September last. The minutes are there before you, pages 3 to 5 in your pack. Can I invite?
I'll move them. I'll move the minutes.
Second.
Thank you, John. We'll take them page by page in case there's any questions. Page 3 and page 4, page 5. All agreed? Please
Yep.
show. Thank you. Item 5, Chairman's announcements. I've none to make. Item 6 is to consider the reports by the Head of Regulatory and Housing Services on the following matters. Firstly, the representation with regard to the change of the prohibited street designation to Consent Street for land on Vicarage Gardens, Conway. And there's a report and enclosures to be found at pages 6 to 30 inclusive on your report before you tonight. So, the report, I think, speaks for itself. I don't know if Officer Sam has anything to add or that. I don't think Matthew's with us, is he?
No, I can't see Matthew here just yet. No, I have nothing to add at this time. Oh, you are here. Sorry, I don't have anything to add. I don't know whether Matthew has anything.
No, it is there. It sets out. I mean, Joan Vaughan set out her objections. So it's whether the committee want to consider that and take a view on the objection, whether that has a bearing on the decision previously made to make it a prohibited, consent street as opposed to a prohibited street.
Yeah, we've got a couple of councillors wanting to speak. So, Councillor Saville first, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I felt that Joan's comments in themselves were persuasive, so I'd like to propose that that Vicarage Gardens remains a prohibited street for the purposes of street trading.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
I'll second it, Chair.
Okay. I've got Councillor Ken Stevens to speak.
I just wanted to know if this was part of the planning
decision that was taken a while ago that more and more of the streets in Conway should be al fresco dining and things like that. Is this the start of that?
No, this is purely for trading. We did have a presentation, if you recall, at the last meeting, and it would be, with it being a consent street, it would be a permit to an individual rather than premises extending in effect onto the footway.
I see. Thanks, Chair.
So, okay. One thing I would mention is, of course, the land in question is in the, or is vested in the ERF department, who obviously would have some control because of the potential for loss of car parking spaces, but there's been no comment forthcoming from ERF, which the cabinet member is present. Councillor Gregg.
Yeah, to go, Mr. Chairman, it's a case of we want to see what happened with the street trading, and then we can look at it with a view. Obviously, this strange world we're in at the moment, this section of car park is obviously not being well used, but moving into the future, it may well be. But obviously, we wanted to see what this committee said first before we took any view on it.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other comments from members? I don't think there's anybody signalling to speak. No. So I've had a proposal from Councillor Saville, seconded by Councillor Squire, that we maintain the existing situation and that Vicarage Gardens remain a prohibited street for the purposes of street trading. Okay, so I'll take a vote on that. Do you want to roll call it, Jane?
Yes, I will do. Thank you, Councillor Evans. Okay, members, if you can indicate whether you're in favour, against or abstaining. Councillor Frank Bradfield.
For.
Councillor Mary Doyle.
For.
Councillor Keith Eales.
For.
Councillor Philip Evans.
For.
Councillor Ian Jenkins.
For.
Councillor Abdul Khan.
I'll abstain, Jane.
Councillor John Roberts.
For.
Councillor Harry Saville.
For.
Councillor Bob Squire. You're on mute, Bob.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Ken Stevens.
In favour.
Councillor Adrian Tansley.
You're on mute, Adrian.
For.
Sorry,
Thank you, members.
Jane.
That's,
Jane,
yes.
I was on mute and I'm obliged.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jenkins. The translator picked that up, so thank you. I can confirm 10 were in favour and 1 abstention.
Okay, so I declare the proposal carried and the Vicarage Garden site will remain a prohibited street. Okay, thank you, members. We'll move quickly on to the review of the executive vehicle and vehicle plate exemption policy, which again is a report submitted at pages 35 or 31 to 40 with the policy itself as it is on page 35 onwards. Sam, do you want to say anything on this? You're on mute, Sam.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Not unless anybody has any particular questions on the report that's been submitted.
Yeah, it is just something that we do periodically just to review the policy, and there are no real issues arising from it. And I think it's a question of whether you just want to confirm or otherwise the existing policy. Okay.
Yeah, I think what's been set out here by John is just really to reaffirm the executive policy that we've got already in place, and just to tidy up what we had really we were finding that some of our executive vehicles were suddenly being used for other purposes, and it was beginning to slide a little bit. The previous policy wasn't maybe as clear as what we've got in place now, or what we're proposing to have in place.
Yes, thanks for the clarification.
Hello, members. Sorry to interrupt. Can I please ask that everyone is on mute? There seems to be some background noise disturbance. So, thank you.
I'm not picking any up. Okay. Would somebody like to propose we continue the existing policy?
Yeah, I'll move it, Chair.
That's
I
Bob,
think
seconded
Councillor
by,
Harry.
seconded by
Harry?
Councillor Frank.
I think Councillor Harry wants to come in, Chair.
Oh dear. Yes, Harry.
Yeah, it's just a question really quickly. Okay, so the policy refers to exempt vehicles. It says many operators will refer to vehicles undertaking these kind of operations as executive vehicles. Does that suggest there's other vehicles that wouldn't necessarily fit within your description of an executive vehicle that this would apply to? Do we have any practical descriptions of those? Or is that something that in practice isn't likely to ever come up?
I think what we were trying to do, and what we have done with previous policies, is define the difference between the everyday private hire vehicles that are doing the everyday type of, shopping runs, if you like, that sort of thing, and school runs in particular. And the executive vehicles that we have had presented to us in the past that are currently plated as executive, or they have the smaller gold executive plates in place of the larger, what are now blue and white ones. We were finding that say some of the exempt vehicles were being used on school runs, and then we were having operators approach us with vehicles that may not necessarily be a slightly, I don't know, maybe a luxury model, if you like. They were trying to maybe circumnavigate having the standard plates on the vehicle by trying to apply the policy that was there for exemption that we've previously looked at. And this one really, as you read through the policy that we're presenting now, is that the vehicles, we will look at the original purchase price, and we will look at the executive extras that maybe would have been put on that model as well. So they're not just your sort of standard basic runaround vehicle that we would usually accept as a private hire. That I think there is a definitive difference as you read through the policy for what we're expecting to be that higher standard.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Right. If there's no other members wishing to speak, can I put the proposal up, proposed by Councillor Squire, seconded by Councillor Bradfield, that we adhere to our existing policy? Do you want to take a poll, Jane?
Yes, please, if I may. Thank you. Okay, members, clearly please state if you're in favour, against or abstaining. Councillor Frank Bradfield?
In favour.
Councillor Mary Doyle?
In favour.
Councillor Keith Eales?
In favour.
Councillor Philip Evans?
Obliged.
In favour.
Councillor Ian Jenkins?
Obliged.
In favour.
Councillor Abdul Khan?
Obliged.
In favour.
Councillor John Roberts?
In favour.
Councillor Harry Saville?
For.
Councillor Bob Squire? Councillor Bob, I think you're on mute.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Ken Stevens?
In favour.
And Councillor Adrian Tansley?
In favour.
Okay, thank you, members. That was carried.
Okay, that brings us to the, well, yes, I'd formally declare that the proposal is carried and the policy will continue as printed. Can I thank everybody for their attendance and contributions this evening? Two particularly short meetings, it has to be said, and we hope that perhaps our next meetings will be a bit more meaty in some respects.
Mr. Chairman,
Chair.
if I may,
Oh, sorry.
will I be able to just say a few words on the Vicarage Gardens, just for information.
Well, we've dealt with,
You have dealt with it, yes.
well, we've
just-
dealt with it and I've closed the meeting formally.
Yeah,
Chairman.
that's fine.
I have a question, Chair. Can I ask a question? I've got in my
Yeah.
diary a training session on Wednesday this week, or Thursday, sorry.
Is it?
I just got Skype. Does anybody else know anything about this?
No.
Sam, maybe? I think it's come from. I thought it came from John.
We are still recording, members.
Okay.
Perhaps Councillor John, we can speak tomorrow morning.
Fine, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
It may be something that's come from one of these bodies that put training on, John, and it's gone into your diary somehow. But
Okay.
we haven't formally booked any training.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night,
Thank you,
Chair.
members.
Good night,
Thanks, Chair.
Good
everybody.
night.
See you, Ken.
So I just need to have a look. Stop streaming, yeah? Yeah.